So in the next few minutes, I'll tell you everything you didn't know about Simpsons. My name is Dan K, and this is the DK Now channel. Let's go. The concept of the animated series that generates an incredible amount of revenue today was conceived by the cartoonist Matt Groening in approximately 15 minutes. It is the longest-running comedy series in prime time, both in the history of American television and worldwide television. Initially, the main characters were given a yellow tint specifically to attract the audience's attention. In the late 80s, this was an unusual decision. The yellow color was also chosen to avoid visual oddities in perception due to the absence of a distinct line between the hair and the forehead. The character design allows them to be recognizable even by their silhouettes, a technique borrowed from traditional animation. Despite the fact that for 35 years the creators of the series have been criticized for allegedly teaching viewers only negative things, The Simpsons actually represent the ideal American family: a legal marriage, church attendance, 3 children, and stable employment for the head of the family. In the real world, a person in a position like Homer's, safety inspector at a nuclear power plant, earns over $70,000 per year. Considering the rapidly disappearing middle class in America, the fact that Homer Simpson has a car, a 4-bedroom house, plus a recreational room, and supports his family on one salary might suggest that he is quite wealthy. But Homer must be much richer than he appears to be. Hardcore fans who have watched every episode of The Simpsons should know that Homer was a member of the barbershop quartet that outsold the Beatles, sold millions of copies of his song about Flanders, was a successful opera singer, was part of the group that invented grunge music, and technically owns the Denver Broncos team. Technically, Homer should be extremely wealthy, but as he proved by refusing a $500,000 settlement from Mr. Burns for hitting Bart with his car, he handles money terribly. The production cost of each episode of The Simpsons is approximately $1,800,000. That's just for production. As for the fees, that's a different story. In 1998, the main voice actors of The Simpsons received only $30,000 per episode. Today, they are paid an average of $500,000 per episode. According to Matt Groening's original idea, Homer Simpson was initially supposed to be a mean, rude, arrogant, and very unkempt character. But at the last moment, the creators of the series decided that the good-natured, silly, and lazy Homer would win more hearts among the audience. Marge's famous hairstyle was inspired by the Bride of Frankenstein character. Originally, Krusty the Clown was conceived as Homer Simpson's secret identity. It was intended to be one of the main jokes of the series, with the creator poking fun at Bart, who disrespects his father but admires Krusty. However, ultimately, allowing Krusty to be an independent character, separate from Homer, proved to be a better choice. It also allowed for more narrative variations in episodes as opposed to limiting storylines by accounting for Homer's whereabouts at specific moments. The series has always had to be adapted for different countries, usually involving specific cultural elements. For example, in the Arabic version of The Simpsons, Homer's character is called Omar Shamshun, and he consumes Egyptian beef sausages instead of hot dogs, while the Duff beer is replaced with regular soda. If you look closely at Homer's right ear and hair, you can notice the letters M for Matt and G for Groening. Matt Groening subtly encoded his initials directly on the main character. Initially, Bart was the main character of the series. However, after the first 2 seasons, it became apparent that audiences were more drawn to Homer, prompting the writers to shift the focus onto him. The episode The City of New York vs. Homer Simpson was frozen and not aired for 5 years due to the events of September 11, 2001. The episode featured the Twin Towers, and out of respect for the victims of 9/11, American TV channels hesitated to broadcast it until 2006. Currently, the episode is available for viewing, but a scene in which a worker in one of the Twin Towers points to a nearby building and yells to Homer, "All the dummies are in Tower 1," has been removed. For over 20 years, Matt Groening himself voiced one of the characters in the series, Maggie Simpson. Yes, it was indeed the creator of the series who skillfully conveyed her characteristic pacifier sucking. However, Maggie's first word, Daddy, was voiced by Elizabeth Taylor. Maggie was conceived and developed by cartoonist Matt Groening while he was waiting for a meeting with James Brooks. She was named after Groening's youngest sister. Maggie first appeared on television in a short film called Good Night in Tracy Ullman's show in 1987. Following Following these appearances, 3 years later, the Simpson family got their own series on Fox, debuting on December 17, 1989. By the way, all the characters are named after specific people: Homer after Matt Groening's father, Marge as a variation of his mother's name, Margaret, and Lisa and Maggie after his sisters. As for Bart's name, it is not just a shortened form of Bartholomew, it's also an anagram of the word brat. Now let's delve deeper into The Tracey Ullman Show. Within this show, 48 segments about The Simpsons were produced. Today, these short, ranging from 1 to 2 minutes episodes look quite peculiar. The characters in the early cartoons appear as absolute caricatures. Groening himself always admitted that he was a bad artist. He thought animators would improve his sketches, but they left all the roughness and angles from his uneven frames as they were. Almost all episodes focus only on these 5 characters. In the credits of each episode, usually, only one writer is mentioned, but in reality, 15-20 writers work on each episode. Sometimes a specific writer's name appears in the credits simply because it's their turn, but the main writer is considered the one who wrote the first draft of the script, and each script is collectively rewritten up to 12 times. Although John Swartzwelder wrote the most scripts for The Simpsons, many believe that the best jokes belong to George Meyer. Many writers of the series complained that when they quoted a joke from their script, it turned out that Meyer came up with that joke during the collaborative script revision. Creating one episode usually takes several months. Typically, 10 episodes are in production simultaneously. President George Bush once expressed disapproval of The Simpsons, stating that American families should not emulate these characters, and only then will universal happiness come. His wife, Barbara Bush, in 1990 called The Simpsons the dumbest thing she had ever seen. Eventually, Marge Simpson wrote a letter to Barbara Bush defending the honor of her family. I am, of course, referring to a letter from the creators of the series in the guise of their character. Marge's letter touched Barbara Bush so much that she responded with an apology, admitting the impropriety of her language. The number of spikes on Bart Simpson's head has remained constant for 35 years. There have always been, and will be, 9. The most viewed episode of The Simpsons in the entire history of the series is Bart Gets an F, the first episode of the 2nd season. The least popular is The Great Simpsina, the 18th episode of the 22nd season. One of the founders of the Beatles, Paul McCartney, and his wife Linda agreed to appear on The Simpsons under the condition that Lisa Simpson becomes a vegetarian and stays one forever. This idea was accepted, and ever since, Lisa has belonged to the vegetarian cast. In general, The Simpsons is the only show where all the Beatles appeared as guests, except for John Lennon, of course. If you listen to the soundtrack in reverse during the closing credits of the 5th episode of the 7th season, you can hear Paul McCartney, the guest of that episode, reciting the recipe for lentil soup and then saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm still alive." Throughout the show's existence, more than 500 celebrities have appeared as guest stars, either voicing themselves or fictional characters created for them. None of the giant team of Simpsons animators could draw the comic Papa Zoll to look like a child's drawing, so the task was handed over to the children of the show's creators. Yeardley Smith is the only voice actress on The Simpsons who speaks only for one character, Lisa Simpson. Nancy Cartwright, who gained fame as the voice of Bart, had to audition for the role of Lisa Simpson when The Simpsons first appeared in short animated films on The Tracey Ullman Show. She found Bart to be a more interesting character and asked Groening if she could audition for that role. He agreed, and she eventually got the part. She voiced Bart on that show for 3 seasons before transitioning to The Simpsons in 1989. The only episode in which Homer was not voiced by Dan Castellaneta is the first episode of the 5th season titled Homer's Barbershop Quartet. In this episode, he was replaced by a member of the Dapper Dance due to Castellaneta's insufficient musical qualifications. The famous "Doe," which became Homer Simpson's signature catchphrase, was never scripted as such. Instead, the scripts wrote "annoyed grunt" in its place. Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer, came up with the expression himself, though he didn't pull it out of thin air. "Doe" was adapted from the long yell of Jim Finlayson, a comedic actor from the 1930s. Castellaneta shortened Finlayson's cry to the more concise and expressive "Doe." Homer's exclamation became so popular that it was even included in the Oxford English Dictionary. Homer's IQ in the series is only 55 points. However, his IQ is lowered due to a crayon lodged in his brain from his childhood. Without the crayon, his IQ would be 105 points. Cletus, the rural character, has a whopping 44 children. Time in The Simpsons flows in a way that the characters do not age, even though the events in the show are presumed to occur in the current year. Some episodes are tied to specific dates, but the chronological sequence of events may be contradictory in different episodes. In general, all the characters are essentially frozen in time. Thus, Homer is always 36 years old, Marge is 34, Bart is 10, Lisa is 8, and Maggie is 1. In every episode after the 5th season featuring Sideshow Bob, he steps on a rake. In one of the episodes, this happens a total of 9 times, as the creators decided that it would be 9 times funnier than stepping on one rake. Interestingly, Ralph in this series is a chameleon character. Depending on the episode, Ralph may be in different classes. In some episodes, he is Bart's classmate, and in others, he is Lisa's. The character Maude, Ned Flanders' wife, was killed off in the 11th season of the series because the actress who voiced her refused to renew the contract under the existing conditions. Indeed, when you voice a secondary character, it's not the best idea to twist the producer's arms. All characters in The Simpsons have 4 fingers on their hands except for God, whom Homer meets while in a coma induced by Bart. God is the only character in the series depicted with 5 fingers. An interesting fact is that over the course of 35 years, the Simpson family has visited all continents except Antarctica. Hank Azaria is a true one-man band. He voices over 200 different characters in the series, including Apu, Moe, and Chief Wiggum. You might not know, but most of the Simpsons animators work not in Los Angeles, where the main office is located, but in South Korea. In total, there are 220 animators working on The Simpsons. 100 of them are in Los Angeles, and 120 are in South Korea. As you may have gathered, the creator of the series had things his way. Many characters in the show are left-handed, including Bart and Ned Flanders, just like Matt Groening himself. The Simpsons often includes mocking jokes about its parent studio, Fox. The studio's leadership, as portrayed in the series, is often depicted as incompetent idiots. Let's talk about the opening sequence. The primary purpose of the couch gags in The Simpsons is to increase the episode's duration. Their brilliance lies in their simplicity and straightforward cleverness. Lisa performs a saxophone solo at the beginning of each episode, and there are only 4 main and 32 additional variations of this melody. The specific version used in a particular episode depends on randomness and the mood of the music editor. In the early seasons, during couch gags, Maggie Simpson cost $847.63, corresponding to the average monthly cost of raising a child in the USA. In 2009, with the release of the 20th season, Maggie's price decreased and equaled the average American grocery bill, $243.26. Danny Elfman composed the main theme of the series in just 2 days. He drew inspiration from various musical and sound recordings, including music from The Jetsons, soundtracks, and advertising jingles. The opening sequence of the series was changed in the 19th season to show the aftermath of events from the feature film, including the destruction of the Glass Dome and the Spider Pig. Since 2009, when the series began airing in high definition, a completely new opening sequence was created, significantly reworked by the creators. For example, Apu, who was walking with a dog, now holds 8 babies born over the seasons. Maggie was moved from the front seat of the car to the back due to changes in child safety rules, and at the end of the sequence, the Simpsons gather in front of a modern flat-screen TV. After Phil Hartman was killed, various characters he voiced in The Simpsons, such as lawyer Lionel Hutz and actor Troy McClure, were written off rather than reworked or voiced by other actors. However, it should be noted that they continued to silently appear in crowd scenes. The 3rd episode of the 10th season, Bart the Mother, became Phil's last episode. In one of the legendary episodes of The Simpsons titled Stark Raving Dad, Homer meets a man who claims to be Michael Jackson. The voice of the actor voicing this character indeed sounds like Michael Jackson, but due to contractual obligations, Jackson could not participate in TV shows and sing on television. Therefore, the credits for the episode stated that the madman was voiced by John J. Smith. In reality, it was Michael Jackson using a pseudonym. Michael Jackson also wrote and produced the song Do the Bartman for the series, which became a popular hit and even topped many charts. As part of the promotional campaign for the Simpsons movie, the convenience store chain 7-Eleven temporarily renamed itself Quick E-Mart and began selling products seen in the Quick E-Mart store in the series, such as Buzz Cola and Krusty cereal. In the late 2010s, the character Apu faced controversies due to racial stereotypes, leading to discussions in the media. The show's creators were accused of racism, to which Groening calmly responded that it was all nonsense and there was no racism in The Simpsons. However, the problematic portrayal of the Indian character led to the creation of a documentary film, and discussions about removing Apu, whose character was intended to satirize stereotypes about people from India, occasionally resurfaced. Groening has now definitively stated that Apu will remain in the show. However, the character is now silent in the series, as Hank Azaria decided not to voice him anymore. In June 2020, Fox announced that moving forward, characters of color in the series would not be voiced by white actors, in response to protests and discussions related to the representation of characters of different races in animated films and TV shows. In 1996, an Australian brewery attempted to produce Duff beer but lost a legal battle with the Fox studio and was forced to cease the production of the alcohol. Thousands of confiscated cans are still sold through online auctions, with an average price of around $50 per can. References and Easter eggs. The surnames of almost all characters in The Simpsons are the names of streets in Matt Groening's hometown, Portland, Oregon. The comic book guy character was based on Matt Groening himself. "He's what I think I look like in other people's eyes," Groening explained. One well-known TV critic titled his article, "Worst Episode Ever," after watching an episode of The Simpsons in the late 1990s, criticizing the show's script. In later seasons, there are many episodes where the comic book guy criticizes the characters, saying, "Worst episode ever," referring to that TV critic's article. In the opening sequence of the first episode of the 19th season, Bart writes the following message on the chalkboard: "I will not wait 20 years to make another movie." This is, of course, a reference to The Simpsons movie, which was released shortly before this season. There is a crossover reference from another show created by the same talented individuals. In one episode of Futurama, the character Bender finds a Bart Simpson action figure in a pile of 20th century garbage. Bender made 3 brief appearances in The Simpsons, and a full crossover episode between the two shows called Simpsorama. If you're interested in a video about things you didn't know about Futurama, let me know in the comments. Mayor Quimby in The Simpsons is a caricature of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. In the second season, in the first Halloween special, one of the 3 stories is based on Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven. Bart Simpson appeared on screen in the South Park episode Simpsons Already Did It, where he competed with Eric Cartman and wrote on the wall, "I hate the Griffins," but did so with his right hand, even though he writes with his left hand in The Simpsons. In the early episodes of the animated series, Homer used to run away from the nuclear power plant after the whistle, and a worker who was eating a sandwich followed him. Later, this worker was replaced by Mr. Burns and Smithers. Homer's mother, Mona Simpson, was named by writer Richard Apple after his wife and Steve Jobs' sister, Mona Simpson. The animated parody of Twilight Edward Cullen in The Simpsons was voiced by Daniel Radcliffe, known for playing Harry Potter in the famous franchise. The prototype for the school bus driver, Otto, was Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash. In the Springfield police station, there is a map of the city that, in shape, resembles medieval Constantinople. It's actually an exact copy. Homer's email address is chunkylover53@aol.com. In reality, this is the email address of one of the show's writers, which still exists today. By the way, all the website names mentioned in the show exist in real life, although they usually don't have anything interesting on them, for example, desktop wallpapers. In the 14th episode of the third season, Lisa, angry at Homer for tricking her into helping him play football, makes a bet that if she comes to love him, the Washington Redskins will win the Super Bowl, and if not, the Buffalo Bills will win, i.e., Washington will win. In reality, when the show premiered shortly before the Super Bowl, these two teams were competing in Super Bowl XXV, with Washington coming out on top with a score of 37-24. For the next 3 years, Fox made it a tradition to air this episode right before the Super Bowl, changing the dialogue each time to include all the teams playing that specific year. According to DVD commentary, Lisa accurately picked the winning team each year. Matt Groening chose the name Springfield for the town in the series because it is one of the most common geographical names in the United States. There are 29 cities with the same name in the United States. Everyone knows that over the course of 35 years, The Simpsons predicted quite a few events that have already happened. Let me tell you more about them. Tom Hanks. In the 2007 movie The Simpsons Movie, actor Tom Hanks appears, noting that the US government has lost the trust of the people. In real life, in 2022, Tom Hanks supported the Biden administration. Billionaires in space. In 2014, The Simpsons predicted the spaceflight of British billionaire Richard Branson. In reality, he ventured to the edge of space in 2021. Elon Musk's terrible car. In one episode, Homer Simpson tries to design a car for a company, resembling Elon Musk's car. Interestingly, some features of this terrible car turned out to be relevant for modern cars. Smartwatches. In 1995, The Simpsons featured the first smartwatches in the episode Lisa's Wedding. Smartwatches similar to those shown in the series were announced by Apple 20 years later. Nobel Prize laureates. In 2010, The Simpsons showcased future Nobel Prize laureates, including the names of Bernard Feringa and Bengt Robert Holmstrom. Both became real-life laureates in the fields of chemistry and economics, respectively. Legalization of the gambling industry. In an episode of The Simpsons, Springfield's economy improves after the legalization of gambling. This prediction became relevant as the legalization of the gambling industry became a trend in modern times. Neymar's injury at the World Cup. In 2014, in one of The Simpsons episodes, footballer El Divo suffers a spinal injury during a match, similar to what happened to real-life player Neymar a few months later. Disney acquires 21st Century Fox. In 1999, The Simpsons featured the 21st Century Fox logo with the inscription, "A division of Walt Disney." In reality, Disney did acquire Fox for $52 billion in 2018. Sarcasm detector. In the episode They Saved Lisa's Brain from 1999, Professor Frink from The Simpsons created a sarcasm detector. In reality, in the 2010s, researchers from the Institute of Computer Science at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem developed an algorithm that detects sarcasm in texts on social media. Lady Gaga at the 2014 Super Bowl. In the 23rd season of The Simpsons, Lady Gaga performs in Springfield, reminiscent of her performance at the 2014 Super Bowl. Although more of an inspiration than a prediction, the image and choreography were very similar. The universe is shaped like a donut. In a 1999 episode, scientist Stephen Hawking describes the universe as a donut. In 2003, scientists using the WMAP spacecraft obtained data on cosmic microwave background radiation, representing a ring with a hole in the center, reminiscent of a donut's shape. Horsemeat scandal. In one of The Simpsons episodes from 1994, Doris uses bits of horsemeat in school lunches. 9 years later, a scandal erupted when DNA from horses was found in supermarket beef burgers. Game of Thrones Season 8. The Simpsons predicted the plot twist of Game of Thrones Season 8. The final season was predicted 2 years earlier. Video calls. In the 6th season of The Simpsons, released in 1995, the family uses video calls similar to Skype, predicting future video communication technologies. This is the same episode that featured a prototype of smartwatches, skyscraper construction in London. In the episode Lisa's Wedding from the 6th season, released in 1995, a skyscraper resembling the Shard in London was shown. The Shard was built from 2009 to 2012 and became one of the well-known British landmarks. Perhaps the writers of The Simpsons had incredible imagination or were devoted fans. Food printing. In the 15th episode of the 16th season, Future Drama, released in April 2005, a camera was shown turning photos into edible cakes. 7 years later, 3D printing technology was developed to the point where it could print some food products. While not all predictions came true, some of them became a reality. The phenomenon of predictions in The Simpsons has been discussed worldwide for many years, but it's essential to note that predictions are subject to cognitive biases and the principle of probability. If people are inclined to believe what they want to see, and if you make numerous predictions, at least 10% of them are bound to come true. Don't forget that the series has aired over 700 episodes, making it nearly impossible to miss a few points. You won't believe it, but the Department of Tourism in Rio de Janeiro tried to sue Fox because the city was depicted in one of the episodes as a jungle where monkeys roam. The city was concerned that this might discourage tourists. The real name of the mobster, known as Fat Tony, changes in every episode. This is either a script writing error or Tony is hiding his true identity as a professional criminal. Milhouse is one of the few characters in Springfield who has eyebrows, and he often worries about them. According to the family tree drawn by Matt Groening, Homer and Mr. Burns are distant relatives. The scene of Homer falling into the Springfield Gorge was selected as the funniest scene with Homer in an all-American poll. When Smiter's character first appeared on the show, he was incorrectly colored and had black skin. The last episode of the 9th season was initially rejected by Fox due to too many sexually explicit scenes and nude animation. The final version of the script was slightly softened. To keep the secret of who shot Mr. Burns in the finale of the 6th season, several alternative endings were created for the first episode of the 7th season, where Burns was shot by different characters including Apu, Moe, Smiters, and even the Simpson family dog. Homer is the only character with dialogues in literally every episode. While Marge and Lisa also appear in every episode, there are episodes where they don't speak a word. There are also a couple of episodes where Bart doesn't appear. Interesting fact, the two strands of hair on Homer's head are called Archie and Vicky. The peak of The Simpsons' popularity was in the 12th season, after which there was a gradual decline in viewership. For the current 35th season, the audience is 7 times smaller than in the 12th season. In 2002, Matt Groening stated that The Simpsons would most likely not be renewed the following year, and many feared it could be the end of the series. However, the show not only continued but still continues to be produced to this day. At the moment, The Simpsons has completed 35 seasons. Let's talk about the achievements of the series. In 1998, Bart was named one of the most influential people of the century by Time magazine, and in 2007, Marge was recognized as the sexiest housewife and appeared on the cover of Maxim magazine. In 2004, The Simpsons surpassed the number of episodes of the Scooby-Doo animated series and has held the record in this category since then. In addition to receiving numerous television awards, The Simpsons has twice been included in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest-running animated series and as the series with the most guest celebrities. Over the years, the series has received 34 Primetime Emmy Awards and 30 Annie Awards. In 2000, the TV show received its own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Which of these facts did you like the most? And which one did I forget to include on this list? I'm waiting for your comments under this video right now. My name is Dan K, and this is the DK Now channel. See you soon. Bye.